Hello Bitizens, it's Yacky from the Killer Bits, and today I'll be the one who's stirring things up for today's vlog. So I want to talk about the recent approval of voice actors in video games wanting to go on strike. Or should I say, really, voice actors who are members of SAG-AFTRA, which is basically the union for voice actors in gaming. So, in case you have been missing all the news, recently, voice actors have taken to using the Twitter handle of #PerformanceMatters as well as #IamOnBoard2015. And what it basically is saying that the game industry is basically treating voice actors unfairly and basically putting them through needless risk and harm in terms of their professional career. So what this takes the form of is basically forcing them to perform mocap, which covers physical performance, without having been told that they were required to do so before they had signed their contract and had been hired. So it's very much the case of you've just provided the voice for your character. Oh, by the way, you're also doing mocap. You have to come to the studio at 8 at this time, blah blah, or you're fired. So, what's the answer to the mocap situation? Well, the members of SAG-AFTRA are asking that they are provided at least a stunt coordinator, who is also going to be on set during filming, just to make sure that everything is safe and so that people don't get injured, as these are, you know, typically voice actors. Not a lot of them will do a lot of on-camera work necessarily, and therefore it's only fair to make sure that someone's making sure they don't break a leg or something, when previously you were supposed to only be providing a voice. That's only fair, I think, at least. A second issue that the members of SAG-AFTRA are attempting to fix are that voice actors are given some sort of stunt pay for the increased stress and strain that voice actors are required to do when voicing all the screams, all the death rattles, and all that jazz. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure, if not definitely most, voice actors are required to do at the end of their recording session. So after maybe 2-3 hours of reading line after line after line after line and, you know, doing your job, you're then required to basically ruin your voice for the rest of the day, because they also need extra screams for any pedestrians that we might be running over in GTA or Just Cause or Far Cry, say. Anything really that requires people to die. So the reason that I think that a lot of people are getting kind of riled up in this issue is because it's called stunt pay. But let me explain as to why it is called stunt pay. Because at the end of the day, voice actors are doing their job, right? Voice acting is their job. So if it means that for potentially 3-4 days, maybe a week, that because you were screaming and hollering one day, you completely lost your voice, that means you can't work for the rest of the week, and that you probably can't talk, you can't scream or shout whenever you want to, and that it also affects your own personal life. That is going above and beyond your pay grade as well as your professional needs. So it's either give it a little extra so that it's worth their time to lose their voice and therefore their livelihood, or get someone else to do it. It's pretty simple, right? And I think is also only fair. Because I mean, let's face it, I'm sure voice actors don't mind not doing the screaming and hollering. I'm sure they don't mind getting someone else to do it. Now the third thing that SAG-AFTRA are asking for is increased transparency. As it stands right now, voice actors, a lot of the time, particularly for AAA titles, are not told what project they're working on. So this means voice actors for, say, Far Cry or Assassin's Creed may not know that they're working for Far Cry or Assassin's Creed. Now, for the game industry, this makes sense because it's, you know, it's to protect kind of spilling and any leaks and all that stuff that we're, as gamers, very, very familiar with. These are all precautions and make sense. However, voice actors are asking that they at least understand what project they're working on, as well as the plot line, the name of the game, and whether or not there's any offensive content that they, as human beings and morally, are maybe against. Which, as well, is kind of fair enough. If you have a moral objection to something that you're supposed to be associated with, you have a right to not participate in that. It's not like you're asking for severance pay or anything like that. Only that you're warned as to whether or not this game is offensive. You know, if someone's voice, as we all know, GTA is a very, very controversial game, and if someone, it's not without the stretches of the imagination that someone would be opposed to working on GTA. And as it stands right now, if someone did say that they were opposed to, say, working on something like GTA, game companies hold the right to sue them for refusing to work, which, that part is a little off. The one caveat that I do agree with in terms of the game industry is that I understand why they need to have these code names and stuff. And in all fairness, Hollywood does the same thing, as well as some TV shows, I believe. A lot of Hollywood movies do have these secret project names. However, anyone who's working internally, actors included, know really what they're working on. And it's only to outsiders, and when referring to the production in meetings or anything that might be overheard in the general public, that's when they use a code name and stuff like that. And so the game industry, it's kind of, you can see the validation, but it's such an outdated mindset that really needs to change at this point. Now, the fourth and final issue that SAG-AFTRA is trying to fix, and what I think is what is causing the most amount of distrust and backlash in terms of the potential strike, is that for every 2 million copies a game sells, voice actors are asking that they be paid some extra royalty money, meaning that for every 2 million copies sold, voice actors get a little bit extra on the side, because the game is obviously doing incredibly well. And very fairly, this then caps at 8 million, so that they're not being paid, you know, way too much, because they understand that they are a relatively small part of the whole entire game. And I think a lot of the backlash of this coming out of this issue is that a lot of people are then kind of dumbly complaining and calling voice actors privileged, and saying that how dare these layabouts and lazy people who just come in, work for 2 hours, get paid extra money. How dare they even think they can even do that? How egotistical of them. How dare they think that they are better than game developers. And I think that's where a lot of the people are getting annoyed, is that they feel like game developers are being, once again, pushed and brushed aside. This isn't the case, though. The difference here is that while voice actors and game developers are both being really mistreated by the overall publishers, the difference here is that voice actors have a union, meaning that they are actually able to complain and that they have the ability to go on strike. Game developers don't have this power yet, and the problem is the game developers can't ask for the same demands and also offer to go on strike, and they can't fight for their rights because they don't have a union. Rather than saying how dare they think we're better than game developers, People need to support the fact that voice actors are able to fight for their rights. What needs to be understood here is that it's not as if voice actors are saying that, oh, game developers are whatever, they're shite. We're really the moneymakers here. I can guarantee you 100% these same voice actors would, within a second, support any strike that a unionized game developers may put forward. I can guarantee you. And obviously we get all of the gamer support who believe that game developers are being overworked and are just mistreated in general by their company. Now, as for the reason people are using the hashtag performance matters, well, it's because performance matters. We see this increasingly, especially in a lot of modern and more successful AAA games. The most recent example of why performance matters is in Destiny, when Peter Dinklage was replaced by actor Nolan North. Now, the difference here is Peter Dinklage, very accomplished on-screen actor. He's fantastic. Everyone's very familiar with his work in Game of Thrones and Elf and God knows what else he's been in. And everyone is very familiar with Nolan North as his work as, you know, Nathan Drake, who is probably one of the most iconic video game characters in modern gaming. And you really see the difference in quality here. Nolan North is an highly experienced voice actor, and upon the release of The Taken King, everyone agreed pretty much unanimously that Nolan Bot beats Dinklebot. And not to say that Peter Dinklage is a bad performer. I know for a fact he's also done past voiceover work. I just can't off the top of my head remember what those things were. But Nolan North is a little more experienced in the game industry and knows a little more of what they want and could give a little bit of a energized performance. And it should also be noted that he expressly requested that he not hear any of Peter Dinklage's performance, so that it wouldn't affect or change or influence his own performance. So that's just a bit of professionalism, and any problems that are still there in the bot character. I don't play Destiny. I don't know it's the name of a thing. Sorry, but any problems that people have with its voice acting, at that point becomes the problem of the voice director, whoever is working at Bungie. But that's not all. Performance does matter, because because the fact that I'm able to say the names David Hayter, Tara Strong, Nolan North, Troy Baker, Jennifer Hale, and people will recognize it, that means performance therefore matters, because people are obviously, if you do recognize these names, are familiar with these people's work. Jennifer Hale being the voice of Femshep from Mass Effect, Tara Strong being the voice of Harley Quinn in Arkham City, Troy Baker being anyone and everyone, and David Hayter obviously being the voice of Solid Snake. And all four of these actors are huge supporters of going on strike and asking for better terms. Performance does matter, as much as people may ignore the storyline or whatever. Until Dawn came out just last month and has seen incredible success and incredible attention, and that is a completely story-driven game. Heavy Rain, as much as people, you know, berate it for maybe not being necessarily called a game, was successful. I personally liked it. A lot of people I do talk to and have played it liked it, and is also based on performance. The Walking Dead, and made by Telltale Games, who are one of the most beloved studios at the moment, all focus on storytelling. And guess what? Performance is kind of important if you want to tell a story. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I'm trying to be an actor and I've been studying and going to drama school and all this stuff and learning about the industry since I was back in high school. But then the facts. When I heard about the conditions that voice actors have to work in, I was really quite terrified for them and a little bit offended, especially since the fact that I really want to break into the voiceover industry. It's a terrifying, unfair environment to work in, and it needs to change. So believe me when I say, unless you want a generation of games which is completely text-based, or, you know, features voice acting such as this.
Eh? You? You're like my old man. You won't die. Now I'll have some real fun.
What? It wasn't the work of that white zoanthrope?
You're an old fool.
I'm going to beat that rotten spirit right out of you!
You'll want to use the hashtags I am on board 2015 and hashtag performance matters. But like I said, this is just my opinion, and I am a little bit biased because I come from a background of acting. But at the same time, I'm also an avid gamer. Obviously, I'm part of the Killer Bits, so it's kind of gaming is also very important to me. But I also want to make sure that everyone gets their fair share and that hard work be repaid. So let me know what you think. I do want to hear more about why people feel opposed to it, because you know, I can see some of the problems in the demands. I think occasionally some of them might be a little bit too much, just like I said, in the transparency clause, but everything else I certainly believe that it's only a little bit fair. But yeah, please do let me know what you think in the comments below. Nice to finally meet all the Bitizens on camera, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye!